You're welcome to Module 1 of the Nonprofit Funding Blueprint. Let's talk about the very first reason why you find it difficult to raise money: becoming funding ready. Now, this is it. Most donors, especially those who are going to give you the kind of money you need to be able to scale your mission, are serious minded people. They just don't throw money around. If they choose to give to your organization, they are most likely going to look into your organization. I know there are those who give $20, $50. These ones do not mind. They may just throw that money your way and never come back. But when you talk about the donors that are going to help you really fund your mission, these ones mean business. So when they choose to give to you, they are going to have to look into your organization. They'll look into your processes. They'll look into even your own body language. This is all what's going to inspire confidence in them to give to your mission. So when they look into your organization and they find that your board members are disengaged, you don't have a solid execution team, your brand is not good, you're not strong, you don't have a good reputation, right? You don't have a clear direction. These are some of the things that are going to, get them to hold back from giving you that resources that you need. They may not even know it. They may not even, see these things for what they are. But by looking into your organization, they automatically get that sense and that feeling that, I don't think I trust this organization enough to give to them. So your job is to build the very foundation of your organization to the point where if any donor looks in, they get the confidence that's needed to fund your mission. That's the kind of organization that you need to scale. That's the kind of organization that can inspire confidence into the heart of your donors, that they would give to you and continue to give again and again. And this course, this part of the fundraising, the nonprofit funding blueprint, is especially focused on helping you build a funding ready organization that can inspire confidence into the hearts of your donors. Now, like I said, of course, this without you being funding ready is going to affect your ability to raise money. And for you to be funding ready, there are five core key pillars that we have to focus on. And if you get these five core pillars right, you are going to be funding ready. You're going to inspire donors to give to your organization, and not just inspire donors to give to your organization. Once you get these processes right, then it automatically starts attracting funding to your organization. Now, the very first pillar is having a strong and active board. The second pillar is having community backing. The third is having a clear strategic direction. The fourth is having your execution team. And then, of course, the last is having a strong brand. And we're going to go into each of these and what to do to fix them so that you can start raising money for your nonprofit organization. Now, when we talk about a strong and active board, we're talking about a powerhouse board. One, a board that's active, working with you to achieve the success of the organization. Two, a board that's competent, that has all the skills and experience that's needed to help you win. Three, a board that inspires confidence in the hearts of donors. Because there's a kind of board members that you're going to have, and anybody that's going to fund you and they look into your organization, they are going to know that yes, this organization is credible and it's worth funding. So your job is to be able to build your board to the point where they inspire confidence in the heart of your donors. And I know for some of you, your board members may be disengaged, they may be inactive, they may not be providing you the support you need. For others, you may not even have board members at all. So, how do you get to build a strong and active board when you are in such a situation? For those who have board members that are disengaged and inactive and not giving their best, your best bet is to reactivate them. I know many board members, many founders think it's all about letting them go and bringing in new board members. It's all about firing them or waiting their tenure to run out, and then I bring in new board members. But the sad reality is this: if your board members are presently disengaged, passive, there are reasons why they are disengaged and passive. If you don't understand them now, and then you let them go and go bring in new board members, you're most likely going to repeat the same dysfunction. Because what we've seen within the nonprofit space is really that these board members are not passionate. They are passionate. They love the mission. But because of some factors, it could be based on your strategic engagement as a leader, it could be your board system that led them down to the path where they were disengaged. So your job is to understand why they are disengaged, to get those who are willing to step up, and to let go of those who are willing to step down so that you can go on to bring in new board members to complement your board. And how do you do that? We do that through what we call the board audit. The board audit can be done in two ways. It can be done through a direct phone call where you're actually getting to understand the reason these each board members are disengaged, and then working with them to make a decision if they want to recommit or they want to step down. The other way, which is the most effective way, is what we call the board audit form. You sending out a board audit form that each board member fills out to, talk about if they are willing to recommit or if they're willing to step down, and if they are willing to recommit, where they think they are best going to give their service and how they want to be engaged, so that you can then have that one-on-one conversation with them, so that you at that point you can now be able to help them step up, for those who are willing to step up, and then those who said they are willing to step down, you helping them step down. So having that form given to each board member to self audit themselves gives you the leverage to understand where each board member is and how to move forward with them. And a one-on-one conversation is how you get them to step up or step down. Another type of audit we're still looking at is you auditing yourself as the founder, because you're going to need to see how your own leadership has impacted your board. So this is where you're going to have to audit yourself on a personal level to see how your leadership has impacted your board, so that you can start taking the right correction to empower and lead your board the right way. Another type of audit is what we call the complete board audit. You want to be able to audit your entire board compared to what an ideal board for your organization should look like. Do you have the necessary skill sets to help you scale at all levels of the organization? That's really what the complete board audit is all about. So at the end of the audit process, you should have board members who have stepped up to, who have said, I'm willing to step up and recommit and really give my best as a board member. And then at the end of the process, you should also be able to have board members who are saying, I think it's time to step off to other important things that are important to me. Your job is to help them transit, successfully. And if you do this well, you're not going to ruin your relationships. You're not going to ruin the reputation of your organization, which is very important. Now, once you're able to audit and reactivate your board, the next step is to recruit new board members to complement your board, because many boards do not have all the skill set needed for them to win. As important as fundraising, you find that there are so many boards that don't even have a professional fundraiser on board. So who's going to advise you as regards fundraising? This is where you need to really fix your board. And fixing your board is all about reactivating your present board and recruiting to complement the board, so that you have a complete board that's willing to work with you, that's willing to execute with you, that's willing to step up to the mission, so that you all can achieve the vision for the organization. Now, over the next 30 days, you have the opportunity to be able to correct your board. You can use the very first week to, engage each board, your present board members, to reactivate them and release. The second week and the second week, you can use it to run your board recruitment outreach. The third week, you can use to, interview your board members. And then the fourth week, you can use that to onboard these new board members, so that at the end of 1 month, you have a board that is ready to commit and work with you to achieve the success of your organization. As I would always say, everything rises and falls on leadership within the nonprofit world. If you have a leadership that's not stable, that's not effective, you're most likely going to struggle across the other aspect of your organization, especially fundraising, because that's where we see the immediate impact. While you may think there's no direct correlation between your board and fundraising, the truth is if your board is never in order, you're most likely going to struggle with fundraising. You're most likely going to struggle with program execution and every other aspect of the organization because every organization models its leaders. So fix your board over the next 30 days. Get 5 to 7 people active so that you all can begin to work together to build and scale your organization. I've provided you my board transformation blueprint that's going to guide you through every step of the process, including videos like this and instructions you can follow. Use that to begin to set your board up for good. The second part of it is what we call the community backing. Many organizations underestimate the impact of having the community behind them. And this is the reason many of you do not get funding, especially grantors. Grantors look deeply into your organization to see the level of community backing you have. And that's one of the factors that they look at to get you funded. So, how do you get community backing? Why do you lack community backing in the first place? You lack community backing in the first place because when you started up your organization, you didn't reach out to the community. You didn't get their ideas. You didn't get their consensus on what's the best solution to execute to impact your community. Of course, you understood what's happening within the community, and then you decided to develop programs that's going to help the community, on your own. And this way, the community is, of course, going to be looking at you. If you bring impact, they're going to enjoy it all, but they are never really going to stand behind you. You know why? Because people only commit to plans they were part of creating. So if you want your community to stand behind you, then it means their voice has to matter within your mission and within your organization. And that starts with planning with them, asking their ideas. What do you think is going to be the best solution for us to execute on for this need we're trying to meet? By getting the ideas of community residents, by getting the ideas of stakeholders within the community, by getting the ideas of those you serve, you build what we call community backing because as at that point, they now have a voice in your mission. They were a part of building the very organization you have now. So for you to correct that, you are going to have to return to the roots if you've never done this before. It's time to go back into the community to start asking for their ideas, to start asking for their feedback. What's the best way we can go about this mission? What's the best solution to this need we're trying to meet? If there's a solution that's going to appeal to you, what do you think it's going to be? You want to get as many ideas as possible, including stakeholders and everyone involved, community residents, and we do this through what we call polls and surveys. So you run surveys across the community to collect their ideas. You run polls across the community to collect their ideas. And the good thing is by doing this, you're building what we call community backing because these people can now, stand up for you and stand up with you because they have a voice in your very mission. So when we do strategic planning for organizations, we usually start with the community outreach, where we go into the community to run a community needs assessment to identify the solutions the community think is best. Because think about it, they are the ones who's feeling the challenges. They know where the shoes, pinches the most. So you should be able to listen to them for their solutions before bringing those solutions into your board for the very next pillar, which is where we create clear strategic direction. So the process, the way it's supposed to go is you collecting the ideas of the community and then bringing it into your board and you and your board members then creating clear strategic direction and processes to be able to achieve those solutions you all have, identified within the community. And that's where strategic direction comes in. And another mistake most nonprofits make is that they go into this process without carrying their board members along. They basically bring in professionals to develop their strategic plan without actually having the board members bring in their inputs. And this is one of the reasons why you find organizations running without board members actually providing support. Like I said, people who plan together execute together. So if your board members are not a part of creating the strategic direction of your organization, it is most certain that they would not work with you to execute that mission and that vision for your organization. So how do you create strategic direction? You collect the ideas of the community, you come together on a round table with your board members, and then you all execute together to be able to create those solutions that you want for your community. And by defining the strategic direction of the organization, which is the mission, the goals, the objectives, the programs, right, the events, the activities, all that well defined and well aligned, it shows externally. Donors begin to see it that indeed this organization knows where they are going. This is the mission, this is the program that helps them get there. They see it very clearly and then they begin to believe in your mission. And if you have a very good strategic direction, you have donors who would want to be a part of that journey because, of course, everyone wants to be a part of a movement as long as it's a great movement that they can actualize and they can relate with. So, this is one of the reasons why donors do not believe. But if you get this right, donors begin to believe and they will begin to step up on board to work with you to achieve the vision and the mission for your organization. The very fourth is you don't have an execution team. You're basically running a one-man show. It's you and some other person trying to make things happen. But that's not how a standard organization should run. A standard organization should have an execution team, basically different departments with people working within to actualize the different aspects of the organization. So for marketing, there's a team running the show. For fundraising, there's a team running the show. For program execution, there's a team running the show, right? That's how a standard organization is supposed to run. But your organization doesn't have that. You're basically everywhere trying to do everything all by yourself. And like I said, donors don't fund a one-man show. They want to see that indeed you are an organization of people actually working together to actualize the vision and the mission for your organization. So when they look into your organization and they see a one-man show, they see you trying to do it all, they know you don't have the capacity to be able to achieve the vision and the mission for your organization. And the sad reality is you're looking at it from the point of view that when I bring in money, I'm going to bring in the people. But then again, the money is not going to come until the people are on ground to work with you. So how do? You have to bridge that gap. You have to bring in an execution team that's going to start executing across the different aspects of your organization. And this is where your board members really come in because they can lead this different execution team across the different aspects of the organization, from fundraising to partnership to marketing to program execution. And then these teams begin to work individually and co um, as co-cooperators to be able to achieve the vision and the mission for your organization. So you need those teams to be able to inspire confidence. Donors need to be able to go online on Facebook and they see your messaging out there, a marketing person talking about your program. They want to be somewhere else and then they see somebody else talking about the same organization. That's how you inspire confidence. That's how they know that these guys really mean business. It is not all about seeing you here today talking about it and tomorrow they are looking somewhere else again and it's still you. Then it shows you a one-man show. So you're going to need execution team to be able to execute the different aspects of your organization if you want to be successful. Another aspect or the fifth pillar of having becoming funding ready is what we call having a strong brand. A strong brand means your brand communicates a strong message. They see your brand as a brand that they want to be associated with. And this is really very important for grantors. Of course, donors as well, but for grantors, grantors actually, of course, they are here for impact, but they also want to be able to build and scale their organization. So what that means is they want to be able to work with organizations that can also help them grow their brand, that can also help them scale their impact, right? So you need to have that sort of a strong brand. And like I said, having what we call the community backing is also a very great way to show a strong brand. Because when you have a community backing, you see that even online, people actually follow you. People talk about the work you do. Your work communicates meaning and purpose. And that's really what most donors and most grantors and funders want to be a part of. So having a strong brand means you have a strong following on social media, you have a strong community backing, right? Your logos are well positioned across everywhere, wherever you want to be. Your messaging is all out there and your messaging is well communicated clearly. You're following your organization's colors. Your flyers have the right colors, not you flying all different colors everywhere every day. That's the kind of brand founders want to be attached to. That's the kind of brand donors want to be committed to. So you're going to have to build that brand, build your following, make sure you're well branded, your colors, your logos, they're all well positioned. Your messaging is clear. We help achieve this. That's the brand that's magnetic that donors and funders will want to be part of. And you must have that brand. Now, how do you achieve all this? To achieve all this, I'll tell you, start with your leadership. Reactivate and get your board to step up. Get those who are not willing to step up because you don't need any dead weight. Once you're able to reactivate your present board, work with them to go recruit new board members. Once you bring in new board members, work with your entire board, both the old and the new, go into strategic planning. And when you go into strategic planning, start with community outreach. Reach out to the community to collect their ideas. You collect those ideas, then you come together with your board in a roundtable. You all then plan strategically to create a clear strategic direction for the organization. And after planning with your board, delegate leadership. Because with you recruiting new board members, you should now have a powerhouse board who has all the skills and experience you need to win. Delegate somebody to take charge of fundraising. Delegate somebody to take charge of marketing. Delegate somebody to take charge of partnerships. Delegate somebody to take charge of program execution. That is what leadership is really all about, not you doing the work. And it's not even your board members doing the work, because as I always say, it is not your role, not the role of your board to do the work, but it is your role and that of your board to create the roadmap and build the team that does the job. So delegate leadership so that each board member can be in charge of the different aspect of the organization. And when you delegate leadership, work with these board members to go bring in execution team that's going to start doing the execution, working under them to do the heavy lifting. So for the marketing board member, there's a community, there's a social media marketer, there's a social media manager, there's a graphic designer, a website developer, all under that board member who's actually executing on a day-to-day basis. And then the board member provides leadership and oversight. So also it is for fundraising. There's a grant writer under that the board member. There's somebody who does email marketing. There's someone who writes the fundraising appeals, all working under that fundraiser. So it is with partnerships. So it is with program execution. And I know that you may be thinking, but we don't have the resources to bring in people for now. Yes, that's completely understandable. And that's why as a nonprofit, you have access to volunteers. You can be able to bring in volunteers to start your execution now. And as you grow, you begin to bring in more money. You can then bring in full-time staff to start, part-time staff at first, and then full-time staff to take off the responsibilities of these volunteers. And then you can begin to bring in departmental leads that can then start leading these teams. And then board members can then step back into simply governance. That's how you scale. So if you follow this process that I just laid out to you now, you find that from the very step, which is active board, you've gotten that by following this process. Community backing, you've gotten that by following this process. Clear strategic direction, you've gotten that by following this process. Execution team, you've also gotten that by following this process. Now, the last part, which is the strong brand, here I will say have a board member who will be in charge of PR, public relations. And that board member can also have volunteers working under them. So that for everything that happens within your organization, there's competent reporting, because that's really where you build a strong brand. Reporting consistently. We just did this program, make sure it's well reported. We just did this activity, make sure it's well reported. The board just reached an agreement, make sure it's well reported. Your board just engaged this person, make sure it's well reported. It is that consistent reporting that makes people feel like they are following a story, and that's what people want to see. And with that, you can start building a following on social media. You can start building a following that people look forward to what you're going to be doing next. That's how you build a strong brand. And of course, including your logos, the proper colorings, and of course, your consistency out there as you reach out to the people you serve and your community. This is what it means to become funding ready. And over the next 30 days, you have the opportunity to be able to set this right. Work with your board members to get them up and running. Next, go into strategic planning, reach out to the community to collect the ideas, bring those ideas together in a roundtable, plan together with your board, delegate leadership to different board members, recruit execution team to work with them, and make sure you start reporting consistently day in, day out. If you do this right, in 30 to 60 days, you're going to have a brand that is strong and that's worth reckoning with. You will have donors rushing in. You have grantors looking to fund you because they want to be a part of your work and a part of the very mission that you have. This is exactly what building a solid organization is really all about. And the good news is, I have provided you the plan, the framework, the step by step, including the execution guide to execute each step of this process. So do not sit on it. Begin to take action because this is really where your funding is. This is really where your result is. If you get this right, I tell you, if you get this one thing right, even if you don't get the rest right, you're going to find people coming to you to want to fund you. You're going to find people coming to you to want to support your cause because, yes, your cause will be admirable and it will be one people will want to reckon with at that point. So go on to take action now. Your next step is to follow the board transformation course that I gave you because it aligns all the steps from reactivating to recruiting new board members to planning strategically to recruiting your execution team and then executing with them. All has been laid out for you. Do not sit on this. Take action immediately. The success of your organization depends on what you do. And I want to make sure you're doing it right. Go take action. I'll see you in the next part of the Moodle where we're going to talk about and find who your ideal funders are so that you're going to be talking to the right people. People who would go out of their way to fund your mission because they have a reason to. So remember, donors fund confidence in your mission, not just your cause. Make sure they get that confidence by you becoming funding ready because that's what's going to transform your mission. That's what's going to transform the very work that you do. I'll see you in the next module. Thank you for listening. Reach out to me if you have any questions. You'll find my email in the download page. Write me an email. I want to hear from you and I want to support you every way possible. All the best.